There is always something new waiting just beyond the horizon line, if you're brave enough to look. Join us as we sail into uncharted territory to bring you the best cinematic narratives. Hit subscribe now and follow us toward the next big adventure.
On the morning of March 4th, 2024, my daughter sat across from me at the kitchen table I had refinished with my own hands in 1987, looked me in the eye and said, "Mom, we think it's time you started thinking about a smaller arrangement. Something more your speed, more my speed." I was 63 years old. I still walked 3 miles every morning. I still grew my own tomatoes. I still balanced my own checkbook. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't push back from the table. I picked up my coffee mug, the chipped one with the faded magnolia painted on the side, the one my husband Leonard gave me the Christmas before he passed, and I took a long, slow sip. "Let me think about it," I said. What I didn't say was that I'd already been thinking, and by the time I was done, my daughter and her husband wouldn't have a house to think about either. My name is Gloria Mae Washington. I spent 31 years teaching 3rd grade at Riverside Elementary in Macon, Georgia. I know how to read a room. I know when someone has rehearsed what they're about to say, and I know the difference between concern and calculation. If you're listening from somewhere across the country, drop your city in the comments. I want to know how far this story travels, and please stay with me until the very end, because what happened in the months after that breakfast changed everything I thought I knew about family, about trust, and about what a woman my age is still capable of when the people she loves the most forget who raised them. March 4th, 2024, 8:12 in the morning. My daughter, I'll call her by what she is, my daughter came downstairs in her matching workout set, lavender, the kind that costs more than my first car payment. Her husband followed behind her in a pressed shirt, already checking his phone. They'd been living with me for 2 years by then, moved in after the pandemic, when the rent on their apartment went up and they said it would just be temporary. "Just until we get back on our feet, Mom. Just for a little while." The little while had stretched into 24 months. I didn't mind at first. My granddaughter Lily was 4 years old when they moved in. Having her in the house felt like sunlight coming back through curtains. I hadn't opened in years, not since Leonard died. She was 5 now, all gap-toothed smiles and questions about butterflies, and I adored every single inch of her. But something had shifted in recent months. Small things at first. My daughter rearranging the kitchen without asking. Her husband using my carport for his boat storage. Little comments about how the house could really use updating, how the layout was dated, how the neighborhood was changing, how property values in this part of Macon were rising fast. I noticed. I always notice. I just didn't say anything. That morning, my daughter had that particular stillness about her, the kind she'd had since childhood whenever she'd made a decision and was waiting to deliver it. She poured herself a glass of water. Not coffee. She'd switched to something called a morning cleanse that smelled like vinegar and ambition, and she sat down across from me. "We've been talking," she said. Those 3 words. I've learned in 63 years that nothing good ever followed those 3 words at a breakfast table. Her husband cleared his throat. "The thing is, Gloria, this house is really more space than one person needs." One person. As if I were already alone. As if they weren't sitting right there eating the eggs I had scrambled. "You've been rattling around in here since Dad passed," my daughter continued. "And we've been thinking about Lily's future, about schooling, about space for her to grow. This house has 4 bedrooms. It makes more sense for a family. A family. Like I wasn't one. There's a lovely community over in Warner Robins," her husband said. He actually pulled out his phone and slid it across the table toward me. I looked at the screen. Senior living, manicured lawns, smiling white-haired people doing water aerobics. It's got a pool. Activities. You'd have neighbors your own age. "This is my home," I said. My daughter reached across and put her hand over mine. Her nails were done. French tip perfect. "We know that, Mom. But think about how much easier your life could be. No more yard work, no more maintenance. Just rest. Rest." Like I was already halfway gone. "When were you thinking?" I asked. She blinked. "We were hoping to start the process this spring. Maybe a summer timeline. Summer. 4 months. "Let me think about it," I said again, and I got up, washed my mug, set it upside down in the drying rack, and went to the backyard to check my garden. Behind me, I heard them exhale. They'd expected a fight. They didn't know I was already moving. I stood among my tomato plants and let myself feel it for exactly 5 minutes. The betrayal, the grief, the specific kind of sadness that comes from watching your own child treat you like a line item in a budget. Then I walked back inside, went to my bedroom, and opened the bottom drawer of my dresser. Underneath my good sweaters was a shoebox. Leonard used to tease me about that shoebox. "Gloria, you keep receipts like other women keep grudges," he'd say, laughing. I'd tell him, "Baby, receipts are better than grudges. Receipts have numbers." I opened the box. April 2019, $6,000. Money order made out to my daughter. She'd lost her job and needed 3 months of rent covered. I paid it because she was my child and she was struggling. December 2020, $9,500. Wire transfer. Down payment help when they were trying to buy a condo. The deal fell through, but the money didn't come back. February 2021, $40,200. Her husband's truck needed a new engine. He'd asked Leonard for the money, but Leonard was gone by then, so he asked me instead. October 2021, $1,800. Lily's preschool enrollment because they were short that month. March 2022, $3,000. My daughter's certification course for her wellness coaching business. August 2022, $20,500. New laptop for her husband's side business. I never heard about that business again. I kept going through the receipts. Money I'd lent that became money I'd given. Groceries I'd bought that became assumed. Childcare I'd provided, full-time free. While my daughter built her brand on social media and her husband worked from my guest room. $61,400 over 5 years. Not loans. I'd called them loans in the beginning, but somewhere between the second and third year I'd stopped asking about repayment because asking made me feel small, like I was charging my own family. So I stopped asking, and they stopped offering. I put the shoebox back under my sweaters. Then I did something I hadn't done in 2 years of being surrounded by family. I picked up the phone and called my friend Ruth. Ruth Elaine Covington and I had known each other since 1978. We taught at the same school for 20 years. She'd been to her own storm with her son a few years back. Came out the other side cleaner and quieter and sharper than before. When she answered, I didn't even say hello. "Ruth," I said, "I need to sell my house." Silence. Then, soft and steady, "Talk to me." I told her everything. The breakfast conversation. The Warner Robins senior community with the water aerobics pool. The 2 years of assumed arrangements and silent ledgers. "You own it outright?" she asked. "Since Leonard paid it off in 2009. Any co-signers on the deed?" "Just me." Another pause. Then, "Gloria, call Denise Harmon. She handles real estate law over on Forsyth Street. Tell her I sent you." "What about selling?" "I know someone. Been in the business 20 years. She'll do a quiet listing. No signs. No Zillow. Call Denise first, though. You want to do this clean." "I want to do this right." "Same thing," Ruth said. "Call her today." After we hung up, I sat in my bedroom for a long time. Outside my window, I could hear Lily in the backyard, talking to herself the way she did, narrating a whole imaginary world. She was pretending to be a veterinarian saving a family of stuffed animals. I thought about what I was about to do, and then I thought about the breakfast table, and the phone slid across to me with the smiling water aerobics people, and the words "more your speed." And I picked up my phone again. Denise Harmon picked up on the second ring. Denise was 50-something, sharp voice, no wasted words. When I explained the situation, she went quiet for exactly 4 seconds. "Can you come in tomorrow?" she asked. I was in her office by 2 o'clock the following afternoon. She had documents spread out before I even sat down. I pushed the deed across to her. She read it carefully, front and back, then set it down and folded her hands. "You own this outright. No liens, no mortgage, no co-owners. This is clean." She tapped the paper. "But before we talk about selling, I want to run a title search. Standard practice. Make sure there's nothing attached to the property you might not know about." She turned to her computer and typed for a few minutes. The look on her face changed. "Mrs. Meidel." "Washington," she said carefully. "When did you last check your property record?" What do you mean?" She turned the screen toward me. There was a lien, filed 9 months ago. A contractor's lien for $22,000 against 1140 Sycamore Drive, Macon, Georgia. My address. What is that? My voice came out steady. I don't know how. A contractor filed a lien against your property for unpaid work. She scrolled. The company is called Precision Home Solutions. You hired them? I have never heard of that company. She printed the document and handed it to me. I looked at the signature line authorizing the work. It wasn't my signature. Someone had written Gloria M. Washington in handwriting that looked like mine if you weren't paying attention. If you weren't the one who'd been signing your name for 63 years. That is not my signature, I said. Denise looked at me. Are you sure? I taught handwriting to 8-year-olds for 30 years. I know my own hand. She reached for a notepad. Tell me everything. The room tilted slightly, then steadied. I breathed, and then I thought back. 9 months ago, last June, my daughter had mentioned something about getting quotes on the bathrooms. Said she was just researching, just looking. I hadn't thought much of it. I was in the middle of summer school tutoring at the time. She hadn't just been researching. I told Denise what I knew. She wrote everything down, asked questions I hadn't thought to ask, connected dots I hadn't seen. When we were done, she leaned back and looked at me with something between admiration and sadness. Here's what this means, she said. Someone authorized renovation work on your property using your name without your consent. The contractor filed a lien when they weren't paid, which is now attached to your home. If you tried to sell without resolving this, it would surface in closing and derail everything. Can it be removed? If the signature is forged? Yes. We challenge it, provide your actual handwriting samples, file a fraud complaint. The lien gets vacated. She paused. But Mrs. Porak, Washington, whoever did this was planning to do more. A contractor's lien is just the first step in a renovation project. What they started, they didn't finish. Which means they either ran out of money or they were waiting for something. Waiting for something. Waiting for me to be gone. I drove home in silence. The azaleas along my front walk were blooming, the same deep pink they turned every March, the same color they'd been the spring Leonard and I moved in 31 years ago. I sat in my car in my own driveway for a long time, looking at the front door of my own house. Then I went inside, hugged Lily, made dinner, and said nothing. That evening, my daughter asked over the dinner table if I'd had any more thoughts about the Warner Robins community. Still thinking, I said. She and her husband exchanged a glance. That night I called Ruth and told her what Denise had found. The silence that followed was a different kind of silence. Heavy, careful, the silence of a woman who wasn't surprised but was deeply sorry. Do you want me to come with you? She asked. Not yet, but soon. Gloria, are you all right? I looked out my bedroom window at the backyard, at the vegetable garden, at the big oak tree Leonard had planted the year Lily's mother was born. At everything I had built and tended and held together for 3 decades. I will be, I said. Denise moved fast. Within a week, she had submitted a formal dispute of the lien, with my handwriting samples, filed a fraud report with the county, and began the title clearing process. She also put me in touch with her colleague at the real estate office, a woman named Carolyn, who handled quiet, off-market sales. No signs, I told Carolyn when we met. Understood. No public listings. I don't want it on any website. I have a list of buyers. People looking for exactly this kind of home. Established neighborhood, good bones, real history. Not investors. Not investors, I agreed. I'll bring you 3, she said. You choose. The first showing happened on a Tuesday when my daughter had a wellness retreat in Savannah and her husband was at work. Carolyn brought a young couple, mid-30s. The kind who talked about open concept flow and maximizing natural light before they'd even stepped past the foyer. The husband took measurements. The wife photographed my kitchen cabinets and said these would have to go. These had been Leonard's mother's cabinets, moved from her house when she passed. I'd repainted them twice, but they were hers. Not them, I said after they left. Carolyn didn't argue. The second was a developer who didn't even pretend to look at the inside. He walked the lot, calculated square footage, and said, I could put up 3 units here easy, maybe 4 if we go vertical. He looked at my garden like it was in his way. No, I said. The third came on a Thursday morning, an older couple. He was perhaps 70. She was close behind. They arrived in a clean but older model car. He held the door. She carried a small plant in a pot, a gardenia, which she held out to me at the door. "We always bring a plant when we visit someone's home," she said. "It feels right." I stood back and let them in. They walked slowly. They didn't take notes. They touched the door frame, the banister, the kitchen counter. The husband stopped at the window over the sink and looked out at the garden. "You grew those?" he asked, nodding at the raised beds. 30 years, I said. "Tomatoes, collards, peppers, herbs." "Our daughter has a garden," his wife said softly. "She's been trying to teach us." At the hallway wall, where I'd kept Lily's growth marks in pencil, the wife paused. She ran her finger along the small notches. "My mother had one of these," she said. "On the door frame of my childhood bedroom. When we sold that house, I cried for a week." She looked at me. "What are your plans for this wall?" "I'll leave the marks," I said. "They belong to the house." Her eyes filled, just slightly. She didn't apologize for it. Before they left, the husband shook my hand with both of his. "Mrs. Washington," he said, "we are not looking for an investment. We are looking for somewhere to grow old with dignity. This feels like that kind of place." I called Carolyn that evening. "The third couple," I said, "full asking price if they're willing." "They already asked about making an offer," she said. "They were hoping." I was quiet for a moment. "They can have it." What happened 2 days later, I hadn't planned for. I was in the backyard with Lily, teaching her to check the soil moisture around the tomato seedlings when I heard my daughter's car pull into the driveway. She was home 3 hours early from her retreat. I heard the back door open, heard her call out, heard her footsteps change direction when she didn't find me in the kitchen. Then she was in the backyard doorway, holding something. A business card. Carolyn's card. It must have slipped from the book I'd left on the counter. My daughter held it out toward me, and for a moment I could see her the way I'd seen her at 6 years old when she'd found a Christmas present I'd hidden. That particular mixture of excitement and guilt and the knowledge that something had been discovered that wasn't supposed to be. "Why do you have a realtor's card?" she asked. Lily looked up from the soil. "Mama? Go inside and wash your hands, baby," I said. I kept my voice even. Lily went. I stood up slowly, brushed the dirt from my knees, and looked at my daughter. "I'm exploring options," I said. Her face went through 3 different expressions in 2 seconds. "What does that mean? We talked about this. We found you a great community." "You found me somewhere to disappear?" I said quietly. "That is not fair, Mom." "Isn't it?" I tilted my head. "You came to me with a timeline. Spring process. Summer move. You'd already talked to a contractor." The color shifted in her face. "Did you think I wouldn't find out?" I asked. "About Precision Home Solutions, about the lien filed against my property with my signature. Except it wasn't my signature?" She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. I walked past her into the house. She followed. I went to my bedroom, to the dresser, to the sweaters, to the shoebox. I brought it to the kitchen table and opened it. "Sit down," I said. She sat. I laid out the receipts. Everyone. I didn't rush. I settled each one down and set the amount, the date, what it was for, her car repair, the enrollment fees, the certification, the laptop, the preschool costs, the down payment that never became a down payment. $61,400, I said when I'd finished. Over 5 years. Not loans because you never paid them back. Gifts because you were family and I loved you and I didn't keep score. I looked at her. Except I did keep score. My grandmother told me to. She said a black woman always keeps her receipts because there will come a day when someone tells you that you never contributed, that you were never useful, that you were just taking up space. Mom, I never said. More your speed, I said. She closed her mouth. That is what you said to me, at my own table, eating eggs I made. The silence stretched between us. The contractor lien, I finally continued. Was that your idea or his? She looked at her hands. We were just trying to plan ahead. If we were going to renovate, it wasn't your house to renovate. You thought I would go quietly. She didn't answer. And that non-answer told me everything. I gathered the receipts, put them back in the box, closed the lid. I've accepted an offer on the house, I said. We close in 22 days. She stared at me. You can't. I can. It's my name on the deed. Mine alone. Denise Harmon, my attorney, confirmed the legal path weeks ago. I picked up the shoebox. I've already signed the acceptance. The buyers are good people. They'll take care of it. Where are you going to go? I've rented a place. 2 bedrooms, one for me, one for Lily whenever she wants to visit. Her voice cracked. Lily. Lily is always welcome. That will never change. I paused. But the 2 of you will need to find alternative arrangements before closing. Denise will send formal notice this week. She pushed back from the table. You're doing this to hurt us. I'm doing this, I said carefully, because I finally understand that the most loving thing I can do, for both of us, is to stop being a resource and start being a person again. I went to my room and closed the door. Her husband came home at 6. I heard the voices, low and urgent, in the kitchen. I heard him come up the stairs, heard him knock. I opened the door. He was trying to look calm. He wasn't. Gloria, he said, I think we need to talk about this rationally. I'm listening, I said. He started with the argument about stability, about Lily, about what the disruption would do to a 5-year-old. I let him finish. Then I asked him one question. When you filed authorization for that renovation contractor, the one whose lien is now attached to my property, did you believe I would ever find out? The rational expression dissolved. That was a miscommunication. It was my signature on a document I never signed. We were going to tell you when, I asked. Before or after I was settled into the Water-a-Box community? He had nothing. I don't require an explanation, I said. I require you both to be out before closing. You'll have plenty of time. The buyer has agreed to a 22-day window specifically to accommodate that. I closed the door again. That night I called Ruth. It's done, I said. How do you feel? I thought about it honestly. Lighter, I said, and sad. How do you feel? I said, and sad, both at the same time. That's about right, she said. 22 days later, on a Tuesday morning in April, I signed the final transfer documents at Denise's office. Sale price agreed upon, lien officially vacated, fraud report on record. My daughter and her husband had moved to a rental across town. Quickly, quietly, without asking for help, which told me more than any conversation could have. On the kitchen table of 1140 Sycamore Drive, I left an envelope. Inside was a letter. April 26th, 2024. By the time you read this, I'll be 2 towns over. Not far, but far enough. You asked me once what I wanted. Not what I needed, not what would be convenient, not what would be more my speed. You never asked what I actually wanted. So let me tell you now. I wanted to grow old in the house I built a life in. I wanted my granddaughter to learn the names of vegetables in my garden and carry that with her forever. I wanted Sunday mornings without anyone calculating what I was worth to their spreadsheet. I know some of that is my fault. I made myself too available. I confused being needed with being loved. I thought the receipts in my shoebox were just paperwork. I didn't realize they were a story. The story of everything I gave while slowly disappearing. I'm not disappearing anymore. Your share of nothing is nothing, and I want you to hear that not as punishment, but as a mirror. You have your health, your youth, your daughter, each other. Those things cost nothing and are worth everything. I hope you remember that now that the house is gone. Lily is welcome at my table any Sunday she wants. I will teach her to check the soil moisture and name the herbs and make biscuits from scratch, the way my mother taught me. She will know her grandmother as whole. She will not know her grandmother as a woman who waited to be told she was allowed to exist. I love you. That has never been the question. But I love myself too, and it took me 63 years and a breakfast conversation and a forged signature on a contractor's lien to finally act like it. Mom, P.S. The big oak in the backyard needs pruning in late November. Leonard always did it the weekend before Thanksgiving. Please tell the new owners. Summer came. Then fall. I settled into my new place the way you settle into a good pair of shoes. Slowly, then all at once. 2 bedrooms, a small back porch, a patch of soil where I started a new garden. Neighbors who waved. Mornings that were mine. Ruth came by every Sunday with something. Once a pie, once just herself, which was better than the pie. We sat on the porch and talked about our children and our gardens, and the particular freedom that comes from no longer needing anyone's permission to take up space. Lily came on the first Saturday of October. My daughter dropped her off at 9 in the morning. She didn't come inside, but she waved from the car and I waved back, and I counted that as something. Lily ran up the porch steps and threw herself at me. "Grandma, I've been practicing the tomato check thing." "Show me," I said. We spent the morning in the garden. She narrated the whole thing, the way she always did, giving each plant a name and a personality and a backstory. By noon, she decided that the largest tomato plant was a retired astronaut named Captain Gerald. We ate lunch on the porch. "Is Mama sad?" she asked, in the way children ask things. Directly, no wind-up. I thought carefully. "I think your mama is learning some things," I said. "The same way you're learning things. It just takes grown-ups longer sometimes." She considered this with the seriousness of someone twice her age. "Like how it took Daddy a really long time to learn to whistle." Exactly like that. She seemed satisfied. In December, I received a card in the mail. My daughter's handwriting on the envelope. Inside, a Christmas card. Simple, a wreath on white, and written underneath the printed message. In her handwriting, "I've been in therapy since August. I'm starting to understand some things I should have understood a long time ago. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know." I stood at my kitchen counter for a long time holding that card. Then I put it on my refrigerator, next to a drawing Lily had made of Captain Gerald the astronaut tomato. A week later, I went back to Denise's office and made a change to my estate documents. Lily's name went on everything. By the time she turned 18, with careful investment, what I'd protected would have grown. Enough for college, enough for a beginning payment, enough for a beginning. My daughter would find out when the time came. Until then, it was between me and Denise and the paperwork that no one could forge. "You sure?" Denise asked. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life," I said. On the last Sunday in February 2025, nearly a year after that breakfast conversation, I was in my garden checking on my early seedlings when I heard a car I didn't recognize pull up. I stood up and shaded my eyes. My daughter got out first, then her husband, then Lily, who was already running. "Grandma." I caught her, held her, breathed her in. My daughter walked up slowly. She was carrying a plant in a small pot, a gardenia. She held it out to me. "I learned," she said quietly, "that you're supposed to bring a plant when you visit someone's home." I looked at the gardenia, as did my daughter. Something old and tight in my chest shifted and let go. "Come inside," I said. "I'll make biscuits." We sat around my small kitchen table, 4 of us, crowded but together. Lily told everyone about Captain Gerald. Her father laughed in a way I hadn't heard in years, unguarded, real. My daughter helped me set the table without being asked, found where I kept everything as if she already knew, which she did, because I had taught her. After lunch, my daughter and I stood at the kitchen sink, washing dishes side by side. She handed me a plate. I dried it. "I don't expect it to be fixed," she said. "Neither do I, but I'd like to try." I set the plate in the cabinet where it belonged. "Then we try," I said, the plate in the cabinet where it belonged. "Then we try," I said. She nodded and we kept washing. Later, after they left, I sat on my back porch with my coffee and watched the last of the February light change the sky over my garden. Ruth would be by tomorrow. The seedlings were coming up clean and strong. Captain Gerald was already 3 inches tall. I thought about the house on Sycamore Drive, the oak tree in the backyard, the kitchen with the refinished cabinets, the door frame where I'd never gotten to mark Lily's height. Not once, because I'd given that house away long before I sold it, given it to people who forgot I was the foundation, not the furniture. The new owners had sent me a note at Christmas. They'd planted bulbs along the front walk, and they'd asked about the vegetable beds, said they wanted to keep them going. They wanted to know what I'd grown there. I wrote back and told them everything. The tomatoes and the peppers, and the way the soil in that corner of the yard held water well. I told them Leonard had turned that soil himself the first summer we were there, laughing at himself for not knowing what he was doing, learning anyway. I told them to take care of it. They said they would. I had sold a house. I had walked away from 4 walls and a deed and 31 years of mornings and the pencil marks I'd never gotten to make. But I had not walked away from myself. I was 63 years old. I had outlasted grief. I had rebuilt after loss. I had given more than I ever counted and survived the reckoning when I finally did count. And now, on this back porch, with the gardenia my daughter had brought me sitting in a terracotta pot by the steps, with Lily's drawing of Captain Gerald still on my refrigerator, with the February sky turning the color of old roses above my garden. I was not waiting for anyone's permission to be here. I was already here. I had always been here. That is what they forgot. And that is what I finally remembered. My name is Gloria May Washington. I taught children how to read for 31 years. I built a garden with my bare hands. I kept every receipt. I loved without a ledger until the ledger became necessary, and then I read every line. I sold the house while they were planning how to take it. But what I really did, what I finally, at 63 years old, did, was choose myself. And I want you to know, whoever is listening from wherever you are, it is not too late. It is never too late. The only permission you have ever needed is the one you give yourself, and I am done waiting to give it.